Claim they lie riding, but I know that they ain't. Ride or die. I go hard in the paint, yeah, homie, I'm a saint. Ride or die.
Paid to write books and articles. They get paid to write books and articles.
Stop. Look, I find it just hilarious that you're pontificating about like what people do when they don't have tenure. Like you don't know anything about this stuff. Like, do you have any background that like you're not in academia, you're not published, you don't do any of this kind of work. You're just kind of pontificating. Like, do you even have a bachelor's degree?
Oh my god, the
That is
academic snobbery.
I don't even give a shit. I don't care.
that is academic snobbitry.
I don't give a
But
fuck. I don't care. You
but
can call me a snob.
but the thing is
The
that
Just
unwarranted,
answer my question.
the unwarranted
you're
snobbery.
Why? Why is it unwarranted? Because we're having these conversations, and James is like, "Look, you." He's
you're
kind of
doing an
pontificating about the.
inappropriate appeal to authority. You're saying because you have a degree in
Well,
this one
my
field
understanding was
that
that it was
somehow
relevant
I
because
should
Jason
take
is
your
in academia
hold,
and
hold,
you're
hang on,
not,
hang
so
on, hang
that's
on. No,
You're
why he's saying
no,
that. I just want to
stop.
clarify, James.
So I get cut off again. I don't like being cut off, guys. We have
James,
this
I was
conversation
a
all the time.
moderator. I'm trying to help the conversation move along. That's all. Go
By
ahead.
interrupting me. Well, thank you
Yeah,
for interrupting me to help the conversation along. I'm done now. This is ridiculous. I've told you over and over and again I do not appreciate it.
James, I said one thing. I think you're taking this out on the wrong person.
I mean, the second, maybe more relevant thing
He's
about the
understandably
cardinalship,
frustrated.
At
the
why
more
me?
is he
the more
what?
relevant thing about the
Why
cardinalship,
is he
right?
frustrated? Look, he's discussing these issues about like
He's being condescended
making
without
assessments of.
reason.
Well,
He's, he's not.
I don't think it's without reason. That
Can we look at the Deepak?
he's making statements around um, like understanding of complex areas and not trusting experts and just saying, well, you just need to do your own research. And
That's a
I'm
straw
making
man.
that's what he's been
That is
No, it
saying.
not a
isn't.
straw man. That is not a straw man. Yes, no, it's not.
Yeah, that's a straw man. And I'm
Why is it a straw?
Deepak.
How am I straw manning you?
Normally,
It's a straw
Deepak,
man.
normally you try to steel man theist, but
Look,
this time you just
don't make me fucking
completely.
mute
Well,
you. I'm
that should tell
starting to
you
get
something then,
irritated.
James, right? If that's what I usually
Just
Well,
do and I'm not doing it
now I'm
now, what does
being
that tell
threatened
you?
to get muted by a mod, which is more abuse.
I don't give a
I'm
shit.
done, Jason.
Well, then fucking leave.
I,
There, you know what? Fuck you. I moved you to the
We have to get
audience.
along.
This is
You can
personal
fucking
for
blow me.
Jason.
I don't really
This is
care.
personal.
I said,
time you just
don't make me
completely.
fucking mute
Well,
you. I'm
that should tell
starting to
you
get
something then,
irritated.
James, right? If that's what I usually
Well,
do and I'm not doing it
now I'm
now, what does
being
that tell
threatened
you?
to get muted by a mod, which is more abuse.
I don't give a
I'm
shit.
done, Jason.
Well, then fucking leave.
I,
There, you know what? Fuck you. I moved you to the
We have to get
audience.
along.
This is
You can
personal
fucking
for
blow me.
Jason.
I don't really
This is
care.
personal.
Like,
mm.
yeah, it's written about.
Also, like when she
I
lost
don't
the
think she was a
campaign
Republican.
for the White House, as you say, when she lost the campaign for the White House, she like lost her mind and went nuts on her staffers and was like throwing things in the hotel.
All right. Well, see, this is like, how do you know that? Where'd
Well,
you hear
it's
that?
a first-hand account written by a Secret Service agent. Now they may be politically motivated, right? Everything got to take it
Oh,
with a grain of salt. So,
okay. Well, you know what? What's the big deal with that? She was getting pissed off about that. Okay.
yeah, I mean, she threw
I
something
don't see
and
a big.
broke
I
it.
don't.
I think, you
Yeah.
know, I think maybe the allegation was she threw it
She was
at him.
behaving like a hysterical woman, Jason. That's the
Oh, yeah.
problem.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Now,
that's right.
and with
Jason,
regard
will I?
to the violation of law from Hillary, I was just referring to the deleting of the emails after they were under subpoena.
Let me concede on this point. I don't think she's as bad as Trump. I'm just saying is that she's got a lot of flaws that make her
She might be worse.
not the ideal person who should be the first woman president. And like our current vice president, she's not like great either, but she hasn't done like the crooked stuff on the level of Hillary. So I think that she could actually make a good first female president.
I think it's exaggerated. I think you're exaggerating, and I also think that men have tend to like want to lean that she's more crooked, and I think it has to do with because she's a woman. That's what I think. And
I
well, just one other thing. Um, she was fully investigated by the FBI with regards to that server. Like they investigated her multiple times to try to dig up what was going on, and actually investigated her during the campaign. So, and they didn't, and no charges were
Yeah,
ever brought. She
yeah,
was there's so
but
I'm not
Jason,
sh-
that is because that is the rule that we have, right? Unless it's
what's the
very
rule?
egregious. Well, the gentleman's handshake has been, if you're at the top, unless it's very egregious, we don't charge people. We just don't. And them investigating it, I mean, with all due respect, it really doesn't matter. The fact pattern can't change, right? There were emails under subpoena. There was an irreversible action done to the subpoena. Anybody else that would do that, if you think that when you're under subpoena, you would get away with deleting anything, okay, there's another. I've got a bridge to sell you. Okay, but she can do it, and we do have different standards for people at the top, and
I'm not sure I agree with you. I'm not sure I agree with you. I'm not
and I
sure I
just want to
agree.
say that
I'm not
that's
sure I
fine.
agree that what you're saying about deleting emails. And first of all, if it was a criminal offense, they would have went
Oh,
after
I
her
don't
on
agree
that.
with that.
They
a-
w-
and
well,
so let me
I do. I definitely
so let
think.
me address
I
one
thought
thing.
Comey was a pretty damn good FBI director, and I think he's gotten a bad rap.
Well,
Let me
wait, but
address
you
one
understand the
thing.
concept of like deleting something under subpoena, right? Like that's almost presumptively like an obstruction of justice, right?
It is technically obstruction, but
Where?
I was just
Okay,
gonna
I'm gonna look it up because I don't know.
I was just
I'm
gonna
gonna look
say
up
this.
the deleting me.
I was just gonna say
Go
this real
for it.
quick, Jason. My issue with Hillary has nothing to do with her being a woman. I would love to see a woman president, but like we had our first orange president, and now he has devastated the position for any other orange people that go to follow him. So I don't think that Hillary should be that first candidate. Now, Kamala Harris, I think that she could do a good job at it. I
Okay,
think
I'm looking at PolitiFact and the Washington Post. No evidence. Clinton deleted the emails in anticipation of the subpoena. FBI Director James Comey has said his agency's investigation found no evidence that any work related emails were, quote, intentionally deleted in an effort to conceal them.
Yeah, and that's the important thing, right? Is that you need an intent technically, and I was going to bring this up with James. Is that so? Like,
he went to a liberal paper though. Like
yeah, well,
Oh
that's
that's
my
the
like
other
God.
problem, right?
I
It's one
could
of
go
those
to a
fake fact checks, right? It's
Oh
no
my
no no no
God.
no. I'm
but
saying
You
but
I could
guys,
listen,
go to a
listen.
I'm just
are you
But
saying if I
listen,
trolling
so
went to
me?
a
like Jason, technically under the law, right? If you delete an
I
email, even after you're under subpoena,
I
right?
understand.
That's not a crime. That's not a crime. You have to do it with the intent to obstruct or conceal or whatever. So, like, is she being afforded the law that we should all be afforded? Yeah, probably, but that isn't how the real world works. Like, I guarantee you, 100 times out of 100, outside of this case, you delete anything under subpoena. That's it. You are absolutely charged. I mean,
Look,
there's
Can
no case where
you're
you
just
wouldn't be
can
charged.
I just
you're just
ask
stretching.
you
You're
guys?
just reaching
I'm really
Jason, I
to
not.
just wanted
find
to say
something.
one thing really quick because they pointed out that you went to a liberal source, but I'm curious if they disagree with what the source said. That the FBI concluded what you said. Do they
no,
disagree with
because
that?
if you go and read the actual FBI report, they actually acknowledge that she deleted these emails after she knew that they needed them.
Yeah.
So
And so,
this is all
exactly.
factual, but the way that paper read was it tried to like make it sound like that wasn't the case. But she was told we want these. She deleted emails, and that's just the fact. But that paper put a complete spin on it. Now, if I went to a conservative paper right now, they'd probably say Hillary mass deleting emails in an effort to escape, prosecution. So, I mean, I'm just saying each person has its side. You got to go to the actual FBI statements.
Look, the quote was a direct quote from the FBI. It wasn't the Washington Post embellishing it. The quote was, quote, intentionally deleted in an effort to conceal them. They didn't intentionally delete emails in an effort to
Yeah.
conceal them.
Wait,
Yeah, but you can
what do you
quote
think
mine.
the presumption is, Jason? When you bleach emails, right? You use bleach bit to irreversibly delete them. What is the
I was just
implication there?
pointing out that all the paper did was quote the
Look,
FBI,
y-
and you guys
when
are
I
This
when
is
I
calling it
crazy.
look
weird.
when I drop off a hard drive that's going to go, like, I'm not going to use it anymore, I destroy the hard drive. I want all the information removed because I don't want any of my emails or content within those emails to somehow somebody's going to look something up and find some information, confidential information, financial information, etc. So I destroy the hard drive.
Okay,
I don't see what the
great. So
problem
it's
is.
perfect.
So
Let me take you through the elements. So number one, you agree that she had notice of a subpoena, right?
She had notice of a subpoena, yes.
Okay. And the second thing is element would be that she reasonably knew that the material was related or could be responsive to the subpoena, right?
Look, the FBI's 2016 report says there's no evidence that she deleted
Oh my
emails in
god.
Listen, this
You're
is what the
short
FBI.
circuiting.
Well, I'm not short circuiting. You're just spewing out like the typical like conservative viewpoints to make it look like she's like equal in terms of like bad activities as
Wait,
somebody like
why
Donald
do
Trump,
you
which I find to be
extrapolate to that?
ridiculous.
Okay, so
Because
that's what this is
that's
really
where
at, right?
that's where
Is
the
that you think
conversation
I'm saying
started.
things that I'm
No,
not saying,
this is
right?
where the conversation started. The
Okay,
That is what
okay,
conversation
you
well
said,
maybe we're
start.
Chris.
speaking past each other.
Someone
I
talked
don't think
about
that
Trump, and then you
Hillary's
said, "Oh yeah, and
uh,
also Hillary." That's what
This
happened.
is where the
yeah, yeah,
conversation started.
yeah. No one
yeah,
said that.
because
No one said that Hillary. Like no one on this stage, Jason, even once said that Hillary was as bad as Trump.
right,
You
We were
right.
brought
just
up
saying.
Hillary, James, you brought up
We
Hillary
were.
Clinton right
We.
after we were talking about Trump, of saying
J,
how
J,
bad she was, etc.
no, I brought up examples of other politicians who I think got a pass, and Hillary was one who I think has gotten a pass due to political power and money. And that's been the overwhelming point. Now you can take a quotation from an article, just like if somebody takes a quotation from one of these rooms. I think there's been a lot of times where you guys have quoted John Lee, and if I say Jason said this, but I just pulled it out of context. It sounds like Jason is the one talking about Baby R, when quite obviously you're not. But you pull that one or two quotations out of the report that suit your narrative. And I'm saying that the far right leaning news sources do this and the far left do it. You got to go to the sources yourself.
Okay, James.
You don't think that's fair to go to the sources yourself?
I
I think
think,
that's
well,
a terrible
uh,
example to use, James, but I maybe get
yeah,
your point.
I agree. I
Because
think,
what they're
I think,
doing is they're assuming
I
that
think
she
the
had
Washington
no.
Post is a very reputable paper that is pretty goddamn objective. That's what I think.
I think it's a left-leaning paper that's not very objective.
Okay, what would
You,
you say? What do you think is an objective newspaper?
I don't think that currently, right now, with the way the climate is, that there's actually is such thing as objective, uh, like newspapers currently. I think everybody's got a lean. Like I think the last straight news person who told people like it was probably Walter Cronkite.
He wasn't even. I mean, okay, he's like a talking head on TV.
He gave you the facts. Didn't give you
He's
opinion.
he's being
Didn't
fed the facts
manipulate
by other
anything.
people. He wasn't really a reporter. He was just a guy on TV.
No, they're talking about closer, Jason, like to the old style of reporting and less opinion, which is what you have now, right? You have a lot of opinion
Yeah, it's all opinion.
presented
It's
out.
all what the article wants to do. There's so the newspapers get funding. Um, uh, the funding comes from people who want certain things. Like integrity under journalism is just not something that happens all that often.
Okay. Well, I think that I'll be honest with you. I think that you're close to like the typical conservative spin that like the news is fake, that you can't trust anything, that you have to like be able to evaluate it yourself, that you've got to look the evidence up yourself, and any evidence that you read from any other of those papers, that it's just not true. That's that. I think that's where you're leaning towards.
No, what conservatives do, when I know the examples and the thing you're using, what they do is they say, hey, you need to watch our news. You need to watch Fox News. Fox News is fair and balanced, yada, yada, yada. I'm not making any claim that any right wing news is doing it any better. I'm just saying that if you hear something on CNN, turn it over to Fox News and see what Fox News is saying, and vice versa. Don't just take like the first news story or the first article that you see under face value.
Okay.
Can I just say that, like, the Washington Post is owned by Jeff Bezos, right? I don't
I like
see
the Washington Post.
I don't see how that's like a left-wing rag. I mean, Bezos is very rich.
I think the Washington Post tries to
Yeah,
be fair. It's the only one that I'll pay for.
Yeah, I
I
don't think
canceled my NPR membership. NPR after the Hunter Biden
NPR.
bullshit.
Yeah, it
I
was.
canceled my monthly contribution to NPR.
I actually
Fuck it.
agree with you. And also, what is the one? Frick, New York Times. They've kind of gone right wing. They used to be kind of left wing. Like New York Times was used to be considered the paper of record kind of deal.
Yeah.
And I sort
I
of
don't know about the New
what
York Times going right wing. I never read them enough because I can't afford the subscription, but then I started
right.
using Archive.
Just well, I've seen other people, a lot of
Did you say you
people
agree with me,
pointing it
though,
out.
about NPR and the Hunter Biden thing?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's surprising. I
Yeah,
mean, I don't know why I'm
I like
surprised.
NPR usually, but yeah, I'm a left winger, but I agree with you on that. I did hear about that.
Huh.
James, do you consider the actions of Hillary Clinton to be in the same ballpark as the actions of Donald Trump?
yeah, I already said that twice that I don't believe that they're on the same field.
Okay, I
I
just
think that
wanted to make
Trump
it
is
okay, I just wanted to understand. I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, because I think that Trump is a lot worse. I don't ever recall Hillary Clinton, you know, bribing somebody for sex and then paying them off. Like I think that's pretty despicable. Now, when it comes to like making backroom deals about political favors, I know for sure that Hillary Clinton has done this.
How do you know for sure?
What's that?
How do you know for sure? That's
Well,
what you just said.
you can look up the articles and you can check out the different
Wait a minute, but wait a
things that are
second.
written up on this.
Are you trusting the articles? Just a second ago, you said you can't trust any of these newspapers.
You're you are taking what I'm saying and you're not actually being charitable at all with it.
Well, look,
So
you just said.
when you look up credible sources, they should be able to tell you where to go to verify their information. If they quote an FBI report, then you should take this and then go and check out the
Right?
FBI report.
Which is
That
like
would
what
be
the
the
Post.
facts.
Okay, well, that's what like the Post does. The Washington Post doesn't just publish statements and not provide the evidence of where they're
Mhm.
getting that information. Like all the things I'm talking about, the Washington Post is citing the direct quotes from FBI reports.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that they are not citing quotations. I'm just saying is that go read the report and see the paragraphs that precede that quotation. Don't just take their quotation and say, hey, they're right. Look, they've got this one sentence that they gave me from the big FBI paper.
Okay, but when you are citing that it's, you know for sure that Hillary cuts these backroom deals, are you going to the actual evidence and looking and reading that? Or are you just taking the word of the newspaper or news media agency for granted?
No, no, when I go and I say, okay, I'm going to look up this accusation, I go and I look into it. That's how like I knew that like the Pizzagate thing was false. because I went and I looked it up. I found out that
Where?
it was nothing.
Okay, all
Um,
right.
but
When you
like
say
there,
you look it up, I mean, I'm just like, where are you looking it up? Like on Google?
you don't just Google and then take the first article. I'm telling you that like these places will tell you if they're any good. They'll say here's the information and here's where you can find it. Now what I do is I take that what they've given me and then I go and I look. Okay, does this match up? Does this match up? What is Fox News saying about this? What is CNN? That's or NBC that's very far left. What spin are they putting on this? Because you can figure out the truth in the middle, and you don't have to like just take whatever spin you hear first.
Hey, Jason, could I ask you a question?
Yeah, of course.
Because you have a PhD, and I'm assuming you've written some papers before. Have you ever done research to support claims you make in like a paper or something, some works you were working on?
I don't know what you mean. Have I ever done work to support the research that I've published?
No. Have you ever done research yourself to support some
Yeah,
writing? Yeah.
yeah, of course.
And I knew you had because you have, you know, a PhD and I forget what, but it's just funny to me that James is like giving you a one-on-one on how to do research on the internet. To me, that's just funny.
I mean, I just think, James, that in all due respect, the kind of making these claims of like, well, I can tell you for sure that Hillary Clinton's done these backroom deals. And when I press you on that, you're like, look, this is my method. I go out, I look at where the source comes from, and then I go check those sources, and then I corroborate it with other sources. Um, I mean, I think that like folks like the Washington Post um, have immense experience in doing these kinds of things and do it probably much more rigorously than you could ever do. And I think it's like, I think it's worthwhile to take some of these folks' thought their writings into consideration with looking at the background information. I agree, but
Well,
I
Jason, you're
just
sounding like a Fox News viewer. That I'm sure Fox News does this. Fox News has more resources than you do. Fox
what's
News
a
has this
snooze
amazing
viewer?
team that can go like look these things up and has all this experience from. So I'm just saying is that what you're doing is just something that I would hear like somebody who is on the far, far right or far, far left do as a way to deflect to try to take fair criticism, which is to actually like investigate things for yourself and not just take the first word. That's
Well,
what I'm saying. And you're
okay,
saying,
well,
no, don't do that. You're saying take the first word because it's some kind of authority. And I'm saying you don't do
well,
that.
I don't think. Okay, to be fair, Um, I don't think you have the background or knowledge to even do the real research. I think all you can do is just go online and look something up and Google something, see what you find, and that's what you go with. So I don't. I mean, I don't think that it's similar to saying, well, don't just take the person's not like the expert's opinion in an area that they studied for 20 years. Go do your own research. Don't take the climatologist's word for it, the guy who studied it for umpteen years. Why don't you go do your own climate research and see what you can uncover? That's kind of what it sounds like.
Oh, you mean the climatologists that try to convince us all that global warming is real? Yeah, we know what's going on, Jason.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, Jason, you shouldn't just take somebody's word automatically because they've studied this or they've been in the field. Like you still have to fact check people. This is how
Well,
people get like their wallet taken and their house taken.
well, wait a
This
minute.
is because they're just like
You don't even
you
you don't
have
even
to
know the
actually
facts.
exercise some discretion and you have to actually like look in and look past certain things. You have
Okay.
to say, okay, what is this source who's quoting out this source? Okay, looks like it is matching the source. Then you just keep moving from there. But you absolutely, positively, under no circumstances, uh, just take somebody's word for it because they're an authority.
Well, do you take when you go to the doctor, do you take the doctor's word for it?
If the doctor tells me something that sounds crazy,
Yeah.
I ask him for the information and I look it up. And then I go and I check out
Okay.
these things. Like I don't just like
Okay.
I'll give you an example. A doctor recommended a medication to me. Now, this medication would have done tremendous damage with another medication that I was on. Now, the doctor didn't know this, but he's an authority within this field. Had I taken that and I not asked my wife about it, I could have been in trouble. So that's the case.
Okay. Well, I can understand that particular situation, but in general, um, like in certain topics, you don't know what you do or don't know. Like you don't have the capacity to actually even understand how to evaluate the evidence. And there are many areas where I'm sure that that's the case. But just to make a statement that you could like you're going to go do your own research, I frankly hate that. I hate it when I hear people say, just do your own research. You can figure it out yourself. You don't need to take that expert's opinion. Just do it. Look at it. Look into it for yourself, Mr. No degree in a particular area. I'm just going to go on Google and figure this out myself. I just laugh at that kind of shit.
Yeah, and once again, you're strawmanning my position. I'm not saying just go on Google and just figure it out for yourself. I'm saying I'm saying don't take the first word of something that somebody tells you, especially if it sounds crazy. Take some time to fact check them and see, is this crazy? Is this not crazy? Because if you look back, there's a video online that anybody can go see, and it is Leonard Nimoy talking about the impending coming ice age and global cooling. Now, that was what was pushed back then. That was the particular view. If people just said, okay, well, Leonard Nimoy said this, and it's a scientific video. So I'm just saying, Jason, you have to check things. You can't
Okay.
just go with the first thing somebody tells you.
Well, the no global warming guy is welcome to come down here and fry eggs on our parking lot.
I
So
remember
James, real
the.
quick, James,
Oh, go ahead.
just real quick, James. I'm just trying to not to follow your advice. What source would I look up for the things that you're telling me now?
For which things that I'm telling you?
You're saying where you shouldn't take the first advice, you should look it up, right? Just want to make sure I'm not taking the expert's opinion. I'm doing my due diligence.
I
So just
I
wondering what the
think that
sources would be for this.
I think that what I'm saying to you would just be like common sense. Why would you take the first source that you check because it claims to be an authority in that area or it has some kind of authority in the area? Wouldn't you want to like check and see what are other authorities within that area saying?
No,
Are they matching up? Are they quoting the same things? Like you guys saying just to do what like you're told by the first authoritative source is how we got things like Nazi Germany and Stalinism.
Oh, geez.
Well,
I was waiting on how long it was going to be before before Hitler and the Nazis got brought up.
I mean,
so just to be clear, so I just want to be clear. So if it's common sense, I don't need to check it. Gotcha.
No, no, I said that common sense would tell you to check it.
I just asked you for the sources, right? I'm trying to do it right now, and you're saying, "Oh, I don't need to
If
do it right now, Ninja, because this is common sense." So
if
I just
if if you are if you are taking my statement that's telling you to be cautious and verify information you're given is a bad thing, then I can't help you with like that level of cognitive dissonance. Like anybody who would say that they don't need to actually like fact check, what this person tells me I'm going to believe, that's bad. That's really bad, guys.
Well,
That's like
if
the
you
worst thing that you can do as a human is just to say, okay, I'm going to take the first person who has this degree in this subject and I'm going to believe them. I'm not even going to question it. Like, do
Well,
you
I'm
know how
not.
sad and ridiculous that is?
I'm not necessarily saying take the first person. I'm saying that if there's a consensus in a particular area on a topic, it sounds like what you're saying is don't trust the experts. You do your own research to figure out what's going on. Am I correct?
No, I'm not saying you can't trust experts. What I'm saying is then don't just take the first expert. Don't just take the first thing that somebody tells you online. Like that's a very bad idea that people who have inappropriate appeals to authority will kick to you. Like if somebody tells you something, you have to look it up. You have to like take the effort to verify that they're a credible source. If you don't do that, then I don't think you're using common sense.
Can I just
Okay.
say something about something you said, James? You mentioned global cooling warnings in the 70s, right? Remember
Yes,
that?
if yeah, if you go
Yeah,
on,
so
you
I
can
actually
watch like Leonard Nimoy for that,
remember,
for example.
yeah, I, that's one data point, but I actually do think there was science about that, and that there was actually a cool off, uh, and it was supposed to be like a global cooling off, but it kind of only barely cooled it off because the global warming is accelerating, and so it was like a hiccup. There was like a pause in the heat that we're still experiencing. Does that make sense?
No, that's not what happened.
Okay, well,
The
listen, I just
information in
want
the data,
to.
the information in the data changed. My only
Can
point
I
was
just land?
my
I'm gonna end it. And so all I'm asking is like maybe kind of like look into it a little bit more. Could you do that?
well, you're wrong. You're just plain
Okay,
out
that,
wrong
well,
if
maybe
you
I
think
am, right?
we had this global
Uh,
cooling, but it wasn't as bad because global warming ended up happening. Like no,
yes,
you're
that's
what
the
you're doing
complaint.
is you're making a
That's the
statement that you've taken
yes.
zero time to look up
No,
and to
no, no.
check for yourself.
Okay,
You're just
all I'm
pulling it
asking,
right out of your backside.
that's what you're telling me, but I'm just asking you to look into it. Could you do that?
I've
Not
already
now,
looked into
not
this.
now, not now, but in the future time.
No, I'm not going to look into something you just
Okay,
pulled out of your
well,
butt for the
I'm
conversation.
done. Okay,
I'm
that's
not going to
fine.
do that.
Okay.
Super. I
I,
think.
I don't have
Super.
the
I think.
view of Jason to take the first person who tells
James,
me
that's what you
something
were
as
just telling
authoritative.
Jason to do. I don't. Why are you saying not? Why aren't you doing it? You're like preaching, but you're not doing.
I
Super.
don't
I
know
think.
why you guys are I don't know why you guys are not tracking this. How many of you are far left liberals on this stage? That might help me identify why you're not
I,
tracking.
I'm far left.
That's
Jason, you
irrelevant to the
far left liberal?
conversation. Why are you bringing up
I don't
red
know. I don't know
herring?
what. I don't know what you mean by far left. I mean, am I liberal? Yeah, I'm liberal.
Yeah, I said liberal
So
too.
so typically you can have people who are more in the
Wait,
middle.
how old are you,
And
James?
I
This will
think
help
that
me determine something about you. Just tell me your age really quick.
I'm 38.
Then why are you acting like such a teenager right now, James?
Daily, you're going to find yourself right on my block list if you want to do like ad hominem attacks. I thought it was a fair question to ask people on stage how far left they are because that shows me when they're arguing. But if you want to like be a troll, I can just start the block list back up
I
daily.
was just pointing out how it's a red herring, but you can continue with it if you want.
Try to stay in the middle so that neither one of my arms gets more tired than the other one.
Yeah, I'm just simply saying don't take the first authority that presents information to you. Actually, take a look and check it out. That's been my overwhelming point. And people are butting against that like you should take the first authority that says something to you,
Yeah, I'm not.
and I
I'm not saying
find
that.
that is ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm not saying that.
No, Jason's saying that if there is like a consensus amongst like a community of an authority of authorities, then you don't necessarily have the resources personally to do, quote, the research against it. You're not going to be able to do that, is what he was saying. Did I say that right, James or Jason?
Yeah, and I was reading the chat, but I'm just gonna say, hey Mo, I don't think I'm treating James unfairly. So if you want to tell me why, then I'd be happy to hear it. So I don't think I'm
Just
being.
FYI about the global cooling thing. I think it's sort of true that in the 70s, I think maybe early 80s, there was some dispute about whether. Well, I think certainly the data in the early half of the 20th century showed a sort of general possible cooling phenomenon. I think it was related to something called the Milankovitch cycle or something like that.
Orbital cycling as well as aerosols.
Orbital forcings. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there were models, right? Like whatever crude models they had back then also kind of showed they may be cooling in the future. I mean, at the same time, I think there were already people talking about how warming. There were other models showing warming as well, right? Some reason. Well, anyway, like the models we have now, we have more certainty about, right? And they actually match predicted data much better, right? And they show a pretty definitive
Yeah.
global warming trend.
And Deepak, the authoritative position, the majority consensus was leaning towards this particular cooling.
I
No,
don't know if that's true, actually.
No.
Yeah.
it's not
Also,
true.
I'm
there
kind
was
of
a hiccup.
curious. Does James agree that there's anthropomorphic, like climate change, or is he like against that?
No, because I've actually looked into this, and when people tell me things about the climate, I can see that things have changed, and I can see like the seawater rising. I can see ice melting in the Antarctic. Like these things that people are telling me are evidence and things that are supporting their claims. I actually look. Like I don't just
What do you look at? So you go look. What do you like? You going out and looking at the ocean levels?
you literally go and you look at like the papers that are giving you the measurements, telling you where the measurements were at this particular point,
You've read the
telling you.
papers.
Hang on a second. Hang on. So if you actually look at it in the 70s, only like 6 or 7% of the papers were about cooling. The rest was still about warming. It's just that the news media likes a novel story, right? But it was
I think that's
never
right.
consensus.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah. I mean, there was all this talk of nuclear winter or something like that. And I think, yeah, that's
Cursory
right. Like it
research
was
from
the
even
consensus was,
Wikipedia
there was no
shows
consensus
this.
at the time.
Scroll just a bit in the chat. I linked like a visual representation of the papers like in the 70s about cooling and warming.
Yeah, and I'm just simply saying is that don't just take the first person who is an authority in the field's word for something, especially if it doesn't pass the smell test. Like, if for some reason every climatologist said that it's going to help global warming if we all shove sticks up our backside, well,
What?
that's not
You
passing the
know.
smell test. Like, why would they say something that sounds that ridiculous? I'm going to need to like look into this. And there's no
I don't
harm
know.
in doing that. That's
This is
something
just
you should do.
ridiculous.
I'm not sure what it's.
All I know is right now, I think this year we've gone beyond global warming. It's now cooking.
Yeah, we're cooking.
Well, we don't.
Guys,
All right, yeah.
really, can I ask a question because I've been waiting to get up to ask
Sure, go ahead.
James one question. Because I've been hearing James saying, well, you can't trust one expert. You have to go and look for yourself. Look where? The other experts?
Now, he's saying look at the actual papers published by the researchers, but ignore their
No, because,
conclusions.
yeah, published by other research, so published by other experts.
He's saying
I would
he
question
Basically.
whether you actually read the
he's
papers
saying he can
or
Wait,
even
establish
understand
the
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 data
research.
point
of
is,
climate research better than climate
yeah,
scientists. That's what
okay,
James is
so
saying.
I mean, it's
one
pretty
guy
Daily
absurd
is
to
found,
think.
Daily is
well,
now officially the first one on the new blocking list. I can't believe like how you're addressing me,
James,
Daily.
don't be a
I just don't
pussy.
appreciate it. I don't appreciate it.
James, that's what you said.
Disagreement's
You
one
said
thing.
go do your research.
Being outright dishonest, and intentionally
James,
trying
you're
to
pissing me
troll me and
off now. You need to
misrepresent me is
chill.
not okay, Daily. I'm just saying it's not okay.
James, I literally just like told them what you meant by what you said. And that's what you were saying. I don't know how else to say it. Jason, am I going crazy? That's what he said.
Yeah, that's pretty much what you
There you
said.
go. Block
That's what I
block
thought.
Jason now. Let's go. Let's do this.
I think that Jason is
Wait, he just agreed with me.
Jason. Well, I see Jason as an honest guy, so I think that either he's just not understanding my position, or I'm not doing a well or a good job explaining it to him. Daily, you've trolled me in the past and made snide comments even today. I don't see you as being genuine, so I'm going to give a different approach to Jason than I am you.
That's fine. If Jason agrees with me, I'm happy with that. That's fine.
I
I mean,
didn't get a clear answer.
go.
Go
Yeah,
ahead,
go ahead.
James.
No, go ahead. It's fine. I've
I
been
was
talking
just
a
going to
lot.
ask the question. I saw it in chat. Did you say you do agree with anthropogenetic human caused climate change, James? Right? You do, right? You think it's human caused, James?
I don't think that all climate change is human caused, but you can see
Not
a
all.
direct
I'm not saying
but
all.
but you can
Yeah,
see, just to answer your question, you can see a direct cause between things that we're doing and the impact on the environment. Like
thanks, man. Some people in
that's
chat were
obvious.
confused about that. Thanks for that.
Well,
Look, do you think that the average global temperature going up by a couple degrees centigrade is mainly caused by humans?
I don't think it's mainly caused by humans, but Jason can correct me on this next statement if I'm wrong. But I think worst case scenario, uh, the ocean will rise, was it by 4 feet? Or no, not sorry, not the ocean. The temperature will rise by 4 degrees, worst case scenario. But best case scenario now, it's 2 degrees if we can do some changes. Is
Well,
that pretty close, Jason, or is that off?
Yeah, it's like 1.5 under business as usual, but it can go up as high by the end of the century as 4 to 5 degrees on the
Okay,
worst case scenario.
so I was in the ballpark with that. I think
I have a
four
though
is
that
pretty
question.
Jason,
catastrophic, right? Four is like,
Correct.
yeah, it's, yeah, don't go there. I remember the
four would
book.
be bad.
The book.
Four is the extinction of a lot of animal and plant species that are almost all humans, basically.
Well,
Yeah.
let's come together on a few things, Jason. I think that we can agree. Maybe we can have like an agreement as a way to like end the conversation. You and I would both agree that we need to fact check our sources, correct?
Do we need to I mean, typically I generally would agree with you, but I mean, I think I could push back on that, but I'll just agree just for peace sake.
And we should not trust people who don't even understand a field to do their own research either.
What? Say that again? We shouldn't trust people who don't understand the field to do their own research? I definitely agree with that.
Yep. So that's our I think that's a way to blend both together.
But wait, those 2 points are sort of
Yeah,
intention with each
exactly.
other, right?
Those 2 points, yeah, seem to conflict with one another because if you're going to say I should fact
What?
check my views,
Mhm.
but then you're agreeing that if you don't have the expertise, you don't really have the ability to do that fact checking. That seems to be those seems to be at odds with each
That's
other.
not even what fact checking means. Where did you guys get
Well, no,
the?
you I was just gonna say, Jason, you agreed with the previous statement. You agreed with the second statement. There is a little bit of tension between them because you don't want to like Jason. I would not want to uh, go into your field of study and pretend like I know everything that they're examining right now. That would be ridiculous on my part. But I also wouldn't take the first person of your own stature that I meet who tells me something online. Like if you tell me this, I'll check it. Like, so if you say this, I take just some time to look it up. I don't see any problem with that.
I
Yeah,
mean, it
where did you
depends
guys
on
get
what you're
the?
trying to
Wait,
do, right?
I have a
Like, if
question. I have a question.
Can I just respond to that? Can I just respond to
Well,
that?
I don't know
Like,
what you're
just
responding to, but go ahead.
to the thing he said, right? Like, I think that point one, right? It really depends on what you're trying to do, right? If you're writing your own paper, right, you do need to be more sort of like comprehensive in like your fact checking, right? But if all you're doing is like arguing with a bunch of people on the internet, right, or just which is fine, and you're just doing this for your own information gathering, right? Then like just reading what you read on Wikipedia and trusting that provisionally, I think is more than enough for almost anything,
That's
right?
ridiculous.
I don't think it's ridiculous.
That's really silly.
You should explain why.
That's completely silly.
Okay, well that explains it. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
The second time you rephrased that helped.
What I have a
Research
question.
by Wikipedia is
Where are you
not
guys?
good.
Yeah, totally. Where are you guys getting the idea that James is expressing like authority skepticism? Where are you guys getting the idea that that's his
His
position?
point number one. He's saying he's not going to treat the first expert he hears from as an authority, right? More or less.
He's
He's
not
going to
going to
like
treat
fact
the
check him.
first expert he hears from as an expert. Like authority is built into the term expert.
That's what he said, though. So by expert, I
That would be
suppose he
incoherent.
means.
No, I
I
never.
presume to make it in. I presume he means the first person who is deemed an expert, right? Who is accredited as an expert. He's not going to treat as an authority.
Yeah, I never said that you
Right.
don't treat them as an authority or like they know what they're talking about. But I'm saying you take what they give you and you check it. You don't just automatically take that word. Like it's not appropriate
Yeah.
to do. It's not something that we do in most things. Like a lot of us when we go buy a new car, we don't just like go to the first dealership that we go to and take the car for like 10 grand. You check around prices to see what's comparable and you compare and contrast when money's involved.
But,
Why wouldn't you
but
do that when things like climate change and
Let me ask you a
life
because
in
question.
general is
because of two
involved?
reasons, right? Two reasons why that's
Yeah, just
different, right?
because
One is
you
the
like find an
dealer is
article that somebody sends you
the
in an
first
email
dealer.
and it's written by somebody like Joe Schmo and next to it it says authority, right? Like PhD in authority, like PhD in authority. That doesn't mean that you like take everything that you're reading as gospel, right?
No, no,
Go ahead,
look.
Deepak.
Again, it depends on
Deepak,
like
go ahead.
yeah, thanks. Look, there's two reasons why that example doesn't compare, right? Like when you're going to a dealer, you're in a sort of adversarial relationship, right? The dealer has incentives that aren't the same as yours, right? He's trying to sell you the car. So there's no particular reason to trust him the way, like, presumably, like, an academic expert has no such incentive, right?
They do have
That's one.
incentives. They do have incentives. I know experts in fields right now that don't have their tenure yet. And so they won't make certain statements or things public because they don't want to jeopardize that. They have to wait until they have that job security before they push back against certain things. Like to
Yeah, but
say
look,
that this doesn't happen is just ridiculous.
And
I'm not saying
they
it
get to
doesn't
Well,
write
happen.
books
I'm
and
stop,
saying the
articles.
magnitude.
stop,
I'm
stop,
saying,
stop,
They get
stop,
paid to write
stop.
books and articles.
Stop. Look, I find it just hilarious that you're pontificating about like what people do when they don't have tenure. Like you don't know anything about this stuff. Like, do you have any background that like you're not in academia, you're not published, you don't do any of this kind of work. You're just kind of pontificating. Like, do you even have a bachelor's degree?
Oh my God,
That
the
is
academic snobbery.
I don't even give
yeah,
a shit. I don't. I
that
don't
is
care.
that is
I don't.
academic snobbery.
I don't give a
But
fuck. I don't care. I don't care. You
but
can call me a snob.
but the thing
The
is that
Just
unwarranted,
answer my
the
question.
unwarranted
you're
snobbery.
Why?
setting
Why is it unwarranted? Because we're having these conversations, and James is like, "Look, you."
you
He's
you're
kind of
doing an
pontificating about the.
inappropriate appeal to authority. You're saying because you have a degree in
Well,
this one
my
field
understanding was
that
that it was
somehow
relevant
I
because
should
Jason
take
is
your
in academia
hold,
and
hold,
you're
hang on,
not,
hang
so
on, hang
that's
on.
why
You're
No,
he's
hang on.
why he's saying
No,
that. I just want to
stop.
clarify, James.
So I get cut off again. I don't like being cut off, guys. We have
James,
this
I was
conversation
a
all the time.
moderator. I'm trying to help the conversation move along. That's all. Go
By
ahead.
interrupting me. Well, thank you
Yeah,
for interrupting me to help the conversation along. I'm done now. This is ridiculous. I've told you over and over and again I do not appreciate it.
James, I said one thing. I think you're taking this out on the wrong person.
I mean, the second maybe more relevant thing
He's
about the cardio
understandably
ship,
frustrated.
At
the
Why
more
is
me?
he?
the more relevant thing about the
Why
car
is he?
dealership,
Why is he
right?
frustrated? Look, he's discussing these issues about like
He's being condescended
making
without
assessments of.
reason.
Well,
He's, he's not.
I don't think it's without reason. That
Can we listen to Deepak?
he's making statements around um, like understanding of complex areas and not trusting experts and just saying, well, you just need to do your own research. And
That's a
I'm
straw
making
man.
that's what he's been
That's
No,
saying,
it
not
John.
isn't.
common. That is not common. Yes, no, it's not.
Yeah, that's a straw man. And I'm
Why is it a straw?
Deepak.
How am I straw manning you?
Normally,
It's a straw
Deepak,
man.
normally you try to steel man theist, but
Look,
this time you just
don't make me fucking
completely.
mute
Well,
you.
that
I'm
should
starting
tell
to
you
get
something then,
irritated.
James, right? If that's what I usually
Just
Well,
do and I'm not doing it
now I'm
now, what does
being
that tell you?
threatened to get muted by a mod, which is more abuse.
I don't give a
I'm
shit.
done, Jason.
Well, then fucking leave.
I,
There, you know what? Fuck you. I moved you to the
We have to get
audience.
along.
This is
You can
personal
fucking
for
blow me.
Jason.
I don't really
This is
care.
personal.
I moved you before you just decided to like quit. So there you go. How you like that? I don't care. You want to take up the mantle,
Understand how
Sean?
you like do more research for the past hour.
I wanted to.
Another
No,
relevant
I
thing
wouldn't want
about
to
the car
upset you
dealership
more,
thing,
Jason. I
right?
wouldn't want you
Is
to curse at me and throw me off the stage for, disagreeing with you about what the Washington Post said.
I wanted to.
Look, man. If you want to make your point, make your point. It's
Wait,
fine.
I wanted to ask James one thing. How does he decide which expert is correct? That
Yeah,
was
he can't
my
because he
point.
doesn't have the background. He doesn't even have the background to make an
For
assessment
example,
as to which expert's correct. That was
Jason
my
Well,
point.
said
see,
human.
what you
Jason
do
said
is.
human.
Oh, sorry.
Jason says, wait, one second. Jason says humans are at fault for global warming. Worm says animals are at fault, and Bill says volcanoes are at fault. How is he going to decide who's right? Because they're all three of them are experts. Who's right? He
He didn't
doesn't have
say
the
anything
background
about
to decide.
authority skepticism. He didn't, you're completely not understanding the point.
Yeah,
What's the point, Sean? I want to know what Sean
The
thinks
point
the
is
point
that if
was.
somebody sends
Yeah.
you an email and it's like a link to an article on the Washington Post and you click on it and you read it and at the bottom it says Joe Schmo, authority, PhD in whatever the case is. Okay, that's great. That's like some evidence that there's this person should be listened to. What's more important is like the content of the story. Like James said, if it makes sense coherently, if there's nothing that makes your I forget the term he used, but something that seems on its face absurd or ridiculous or anything, that's more important. Fact checking the source, like regardless of who signed off on it. Fact checking doesn't mean taking. At some point, we're going to take like some authority for granted, but that's not what fact checking means. Is never taking authority seriously.
Well,
Fact checking just means
what's fact checking mean?
someone sends you something someone makes a series of claims and you check if those claims are corroborated you know by other sources.
And you're like, go fact check that. Like James or whoever else doesn't know shit about the Thwaites Glacier or like halo circulation or anything like that. So what's he going to do? He's going to go look at another expert maybe and read a paper about that. Is that what
Yeah,
you're
that's
saying?
right.
That's the form of the fact checking? Okay. So I don't have a problem with like a consensus view of experts, and I said that. But what I do take issue with is people trying to make these claims that they can do they can evaluate the facts themselves when they don't have any knowledge in a particular area. So, and this is where like pseudoscience starts to creep in, where people are like, don't have a background in an area, think that they understand something, read some shit that they don't understand, make wrong inferences, and then suddenly we have the earth isn't warming, that CO2 is actually good for you or good for the atmosphere, that like
That's
it's
right.
actually
They want their
it'd
own
be good for
opinions.
That's what I'm getting at, Sean, is that when you get into complex subjects, people who don't have knowledge in a particular area make a claim that you shouldn't listen to the experts. Do your own research. Evaluate the facts yourself, Mr. I don't have a background in that area. And then they come to these conclusions that are just erroneous, and then they spread that erroneous information, and other people use it, and it just becomes misinformation. That's the problem I
But
see.
James never said that you shouldn't trust experts.
Look, James is saying that you need to fact check this stuff yourself. And when I said, what does that mean? When he said, look at the ocean levels, etc., he indicated to actually go look at the papers. He said that. When in reality, I don't think
Just
he even
read.
has the capability of
Yeah,
understanding
yeah.
the papers.
There's a
This is
checklist of
like
things that an amateur
so.
person can do to evaluate experts, right? You can ask things like, have they been proven wrong in the past? Like, do they make sloppy statements? Like, there are things you can do, but I think Jason is right.
Yeah, so like I don't know, I didn't hear the example of the like the really highly technical data that someone would not be able to discern, if it, made sense or not. But I did hear you know, him saying that he was like distrustful of the Washington Post for particular reasons, which I don't know if those were good reasons. I'd probably disagree with him about that, right? But somehow it becomes this like I don't know. I'm pretty sure you're straw manning him, right? Because I
Um,
didn't hear him fact checking is like something that it's everyone has like an epistemic duty to do, right? Regardless of whether they're like an expert in the field, because you can't be an expert in every field. So
But
like
the issue, Sean, is he's saying
fact
fact
checking is just
checking,
like
evaluate your own evidence, because when you fact check stuff, it just goes back to the authorities, right? So it's implied when somebody says, oh, I'm fact checking the authority consensus, that you are somehow, right? I mean, it becomes a circular thing, doesn't it?
I mean, and again,
that's why
it
fact
really depends
checking
on the
that's why
context,
promoting
right?
fact checking isn't like expressing authority skepticism. Like that's why it's like weird for you guys to blow this into like conflate like
I think you guys,
just like basically
Look,
confirming like common sense epistemic duties that we like learn in school, like fact checking,
yeah,
critical
I think they were just
evaluation,
again,
talking about different
uh
things.
checking with common sense.
and again, it depends on the context, right? Again, it always comes back to the context of what you're trying to do. If again, you're just trying to educate yourself, you're trying to like score points in an internet debate or something, nothing serious rides on it. All you really have to do is read Wikipedia, right? I tell you this as a person who's well, anyway, that's all you really need, right? You don't have to go and sit
I
and read
really
primary
don't feel like
sources.
that's true.
Right?
I
I'm
I
sorry.
actually
as
agree at the
I
first
can
thought.
understand people getting heated in debates or whatever, but I can completely understand where Jason was getting frustrated given that he's in the field that's being discussed and someone who's a layman is trying to argue that they have as much understanding as the person who's gone to school for it does.
I,
This is not
I have
necessarily an academic thing. It's just saying that you have understanding of a topic, and the idea that you don't have the understanding and someone that
look.
hasn't spent nearly as much time studying it, like
Yeah,
it's reasonable to be irritated.
maybe I'm a little sensitive to it, but you got to realize that I deal with this skeptical climate change issues all the time, and I hear this argument all the time about checking the facts. Well, have you checked the facts of this climatologist? Have you done your own research? Do your own experiments and see if the planet is warming. I hear that all the time, and while it sounds on the surface good, it creates these scenarios for people to feed their misconceptions and their what's the term I'm looking for, they have a set of biased reasons. They've already come to the conclusion that they don't think the planet is warming, and so they don't want to trust the experts. They want to do their own research, so they're already biased in doing any type of hokey pokey analysis that they have. And then suddenly they do something that they think supports what all the other experts are saying is not the case. And then they run with that and they put it on social media, and then all their people tweet it. And now suddenly you have a movement of people that are thinking that this is just this, like James was even saying, oh, academics are incentivized not to tell the truth. They're
Yeah,
gonna like. He said that, and so that just feeds into this issue of like academics, have a vested interest. They're going to get grant money. They're not really telling the truth. That they have a biased motivations to put out research that's wrong. Like I just don't buy. I get really frustrated at that
Jason,
shit. It's bullshit.
he said academics can have financial incentives. Surely you agree with that,
But
right?
yeah. But
wait
the
a
point
second,
is
wait
the
a
He
second.
didn't.
magnitude
He
of what
didn't
he was
say. He
talking
didn't
Can
say
about
that.
there
you
But
is
he didn't say
can you
that
absurd.
make a
experts are
step
like,
back? Can you
you know.
can you make a step back and zoom out and like let me just say explicitly what most of us already know about this? Most of what was said was like right wing anti science dog whistles. That's what Jason
That's what
was
I
like
thought.
kind of like
To some
hinging
extent, yeah.
towards, and like it's not like this is some ivory tower. Oh, let's like look at the details and try to like see if he like phrased this view in this precise way to express this or that. Like we're having this conversation, or you, I mean, I wasn't really
I
participating,
mean,
like in the context of society where most of what he said were like anti-science dog whistles. Like so
yeah,
you need
but
to
he
take
did
I
concede.
must have missed
no.
something. I must
He
have.
did
I didn't.
concede that anthropogenic climate change is happening, right? And he knew the numbers broadly correctly, so he has some awareness of what is being discussed. I don't think it was completely a right wing dog whistle.
I go hard in the paint, yeah, homie, I'm a saint. Ride or die.